All right, let's pretend that I know what the hell I'm doing, shall we?
Surely.
Just once. Happy Friday. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We welcome you. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash. Welcome, sir.
What up, though?
Happy Friday.
Good Friday.
I'm excited for today's show.
Indeed.
We have a lot to dive into. The last time we were on air, we were hanging out with Deron Holmes. That was pretty cool. I had a lot of people reach out. Loved the interview. Some people said they caught the back end of it. They missed most of it, but don't worry. We'll have our conversation with Deron Holmes coming up here around the corner. We'll be off for the next 3 days, of course, your typical Saturday, Sunday, but Memorial Day, Monday, no show, but then we return back. Next week should be back into a regular routine.
Maybe
between the Reds knocking us off a couple days a week early on. Had a death in the family that has led me to taking some time off. You've had some medical things that you've been taking care of. So we apologize. We appreciate those who've been patient. We're starting some new stuff with Chatterbox here in the very near future too. So that's not changing anything for us. It's just adding more and more to what we've been doing. So we're pretty excited about that. But again, we're live on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. We welcome you on again. And of course, the old school Wing AM dial nonetheless. But let's see. Today, how I want to open up, we'll put some music in the background.
Let's do it.
Let's put a little music in the background. Give us a little something to talk over, but a little news, not news, to open up our Friday.
Oh, bringing that one back,
because there's a lot of things that are kind of happening right now that, it's May heading into June. We like to call that list season. And really in the media, in the sports media biz, you're going to start to notice a lot more reports with anonymous sources. Okay. Because we got to make up stuff for these reports. Now, I'm not saying that that's what actually happens, but you will notice that there are more reports that come in the month of June than any other month as far as that's concerned. So with that being said, let's start with your team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are reports, apparently, that Kenny Pickett is outperforming Jalen Hurts, not your team, your old quarterback. My apologies. Kenny Pickett is reportedly outperforming Jalen Hurts throughout OTAs. News or not news, Mr. Kev Nash?
It is not news, and it's not news because they paid Jalen Hurts 2 arms and 2 legs worth of money, and they got Kenny Pickett for a bag of nickels. So even just say, for instance, that Kenny Pickett was outperforming him in shorts and T-shirts and everything like that, he's not going to be the starting quarterback. He is brought there to be the backup quarterback and potentially, grow into something they could potentially trade on later. So that is not news because guess what? He will not be starting opening day for the Philadelphia Eagles, barring injury.
And listen, if he is outperforming, this is how I look at it. I think this is news, but not the kind of news you think. It's not like, oh my gosh, Kenny Pickett's a great quarterback. I think that if Kenny Pickett is outperforming Jalen Hurts, and Kenny Pickett, when he was good with Pittsburgh, he was just good. He was serviceable. It wasn't elite. It wasn't anything like that. But you saw pockets of good, right? So if he is being good, to me, the reason this is news is because that means Jalen Hurts is performing poorly, at least again, based on reports, right? Jalen Hurts did not have a great year last year. The Eagles make it to the Super Bowl the year before. Of course, injuries, the typical Super Bowl hangover, if that's what happened. They didn't win the Super Bowl, though, but we've seen teams who lose the Super Bowl take a step back. It happened to the Bengals. It happened to the Eagles last year. But usually you bounce back. Jalen Hurts, there's concern that he may not bounce back. So to me, the reason that this is news, Kev, is because it's not that, oh my gosh, Kenny Pickett's really, really good. It might be that Jalen Hurts struggles from last year, just continuing into OTAs right now.
That's fair. That's a fair point to bring up about how, first half of the season they played okay. Well, better than okay. They were still winning games, just not in the fashion that they were winning games late in the season, just mashing teams, just blowing teams out with the physical run game, heavy play action game. A lot of their games were coming down to the wire, and everybody be like, "All right, they're winning, but they're not winning like they're used to winning." They'll pick it up and eventually get back to that. But no, they just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then eventually it caught up to them in the playoffs versus the Buccaneers. And the crazy thing about it is the only reason that they made the playoffs is because of how they played in the first half of the season. All those losses just started to pile up. I believe they lost 5 straight to end the season or something like that. And a lot of that was on the secondary being terrible. A lot of that was on Jalen Hurts and the offense being bad and the offensive line being bad. They were just bad overall. Switches made to play callers and everything like that. The second half of the Philadelphia Eagles, not only Jalen Hurts, but that defense, everybody was bad. Wide receivers were bad. Offensive line was bad. Head coaching was bad. Play calling was bad. Fans were bad. Get the drift here? Bad. B-A-D. Bad.
Yeah, and we'll see. And again, I don't put a whole lot of stock into this. I mean, every year, we make fun of the the combine, called the underwear Olympics, but this isn't that much different. I mean, they're not in pads, they're not hitting, they're not anything like that. I mean, we'll see. I'd be more concerned if I'm an Eagles fan if these reports are coming through in late July, heading into August.
Fair.
As far as that's concerned. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. News or not news? Rob Manfred says that they are still having technical issues with the automated strike zone, so it's unlikely that Major League Baseball will have it next year. We've seen as of late, anytime that they, the ghost runner on second rule, the bigger bases, the pitch clock. I mean, even the netting going back years and years ago. Anything that is experimented with in the minor league level is usually brought up. It usually graduates, right? It's usually promoted to the majors at some point. Many believe that this will be promoted at some point. Now, my thing, Kev, the reason that this is new, it has to be news. Again, if Rob Manfred says that they are still having technical issues with the automated strike zone, so it's unlikely that Major League Baseball will have it next year. This has to be news because what's so damn hard? You have an automated strike zone. It's tracking the ball in the zone or out the zone. What are we having trouble with here? And I don't even know if I'm technically for that. I still think there needs to be a human element involved. That's why I don't really bang on the officials and the umpires and all this in other sports. That's why in the Super Bowl, you don't call that there. We talked about that in the Final Four, on the women's side this past, March or whatever. I like that human element to this.
Right.
So I don't even know if I like the idea of automated strike zones, using computers and all that fun stuff. But the one reason that it would be hard for me to argue against is, well, it's going to have a higher success rate because It's automated and it's a computer. And so what technical difficulties are we having? Bad internet? What are we having? So, yeah, I think that's news because this is supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be easy. That little box, if the pitch goes in the box, it's a strike. If it doesn't go in the box, it's not a strike. What technical issues are you having to complicate that? That's weird to me.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head with the internet because that's all this stuff is. If the internet connection is not going to be there, if you're not going to have power, you're not going to have, the machine work properly, be it it's a flaw in the system, be it there's a bad connection or whatever, you don't need to bro this thing out there. I think we're to the point now in sports where, we're sick of the human element, being wrong. We want these things to be right. We want these things to quote unquote be fair. We want it, hey man, if this is the rule, this is the rule. If this is the call, this is the call. Let's take the human element out of it. There's a lot of sports out there. Obviously, the guys in the NBA that we look at, some of the referees, what's the referee's name that always gets into it with Chris Paul? We want to remove that human element, that potential of bias from it. You have the computer to do that. But if the computer isn't operating correctly for whatever reason, it shouldn't be out there because that's going to cause more controversy. So let's wait until it's 100% operational. Let's wait until it's a go. And like you just talked about, man, if the internet connection, and we know all about bad internet connections, if it's not working right, then you shouldn't roll it out yet.
All right. How about this one? News or not news? Again, Kenner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. The godfather of competitive eating.
Oh, no.
Takeru Kobayashi has retired from competitive eating due to health concerns.
You don't say.
He announced on Netflix. Again, he is a 6-time Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest champion. I mean, he dominated from 2001 to 2006. He held the world record for consuming meatballs, burgers, and other foods in remarkably short periods of time. That's weird. I thought I held that record. Credited for popularizing competitive eating, popularized the Solomon method for eating hot dogs.
I don't even want to know what that is. I think it's probably dipping it in water.
You came up with that? So news or not news? Again, the godfather of competitive eating is retiring.
This is news. It's disgusting news. Have you ever watched the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest on 4th of July?
It grosses me out. Now, Mark Neal, who hosted Dayton Sports Scene forever, he was the program director here. And Mark, I think he's back in the area, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Mark Neal, by the way. He had a chance before he left Wing, I think, to cover one of these. So I remember, he had, I know Mike Golick Jr., Jason Fitz, who's a regular on the show during football season. Before Jason left ESPN, him and Mike Golick Jr. like emceed it or hosted it, if you will. But Neil went and covered it one time on behalf of Wing or whatever. So, I mean, I know that he finds that fascinating. I find it gross. I can't. I just can't watch it. It makes me nauseous. But I also laugh like these champions of this too. Man, I put him up there with LeBron and Michael Jordan and Babe Ruth, and I mean, dominating their sport. Come on now. Come on. Like, I mean, and sometimes I'm like, are they having fun with it? No, like they're taking it serious because ESPN has the rights to this. We're fake ESPN. I don't care. I'm not going to give it any more credit than it needs. I find it disgusting, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird. It's nasty. But if you ever see the ratings for the Nathan's hot dog eating contest on 4th of July, it breaks all types of numbers on streaming, on ESPN, the rewatches on social media. Some people eat it up. No pun intended.
No pun intended. Your camera died, by the way.
I saw that. Don't worry. We're still rocking and rolling.
But did it die or is it?
Yeah.
It died.
Yeah. I don't know why, but we'll work it out.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll fix that coming up here in just a second. Log in on your computer and just mute it if you don't mind. Sure. We're live on Chatterbox Sports. We're live on the ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. We have not had a technical difficult. I mean, we're like the automated strike zone of baseball. We have not had a issue-free show when it comes to that. The radio side's been great.
Hey, radio never fails, baby.
Here's the thing. I know radio's going really well. That's why I know we're the best sports talk station in the city, because I just got an email from our traffic director. Wing is sold out next week. Do not add any more orders. So Wing is sold out. The Kidder and Kev show is sold out next week. So just letting that be known.
That's the only sellouts that I like.
So yes, exactly. Exactly. I wish I had a sellout joke or a transition into someone who's sold out, but I don't have one queued up or lined up as far as that's concerned. All right. How about this? Now we'll get to that one coming up here in a moment. I'll save that one for later. I want to talk about the Friday night primetime college football games were released. The schedule was released. No Buckeyes in there. I want to get to that in a moment. But Donovan Mitchell, lots being made about him potentially re-signing and signing an extension with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kev. And the thing that's interesting about that is Cavs fans starting to get a little excited, but they got a little, they were showing how, soft they can be. Remember earlier in the year, he threw out the first pitch at a Mets game.
Right.
And he was, going to Giant games, and, he was showing his love for the city of New York. Well, just 2 nights ago, as Cavs fans are starting to get excited again for the possibility of Donovan Mitchell being a Cavalier long-term, he was spotted at the New York Liberty game 2 nights ago. News or not news?
Not news. He's from New York. Back home, hanging out with his mom. Not news at all. And I mean, obviously, everything that's going on in the W right now, it's the hottest ticket in sports outside of the NBA playoffs. Like, people want to go to the WNBA game. So this is not news. Just going to a basketball game. People relax.
So it's not news, but in the way that people consume this stuff, I mean, I get why it's getting, the buzz that it is or whatever. But the question I have is I'm kind of shocked that rumors are starting to change towards him signing the extension in Cleveland. Like, he could become a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. It's kind of wild that he would, like, this would be a huge get for Cleveland. I want to go more in depth on this. If he does sign an extension with Cleveland, I will say that this is the biggest, outside of drafting LeBron James, if Donovan Mitchell signs an extension in Cleveland, that to me will be the second biggest win in Cavs history. Not LeBron coming back.
Oh, wow.
Not LeBron coming back. I think that this would be a bigger deal. Like LeBron, like the reason that the Cavs never get the respect that like the Warriors did for going to the finals so many years in a row and all this stuff is because it was LeBron going to the finals. It wasn't the Cavs. Like, the Cavs have a chance here. If they sign Donovan Mitchell long-term, they have an opportunity to be viewed as the Cavs with Donovan Mitchell, not the fighting LeBron Jameses. So, like, if they get that done, that's fascinating, especially if he's able to pick where he wants to go. That's why I think this stuff is news, is because Cleveland, there has been no proof that a big-name free agent or a big name would choose Cleveland over anywhere else. LeBron doesn't count because Cleveland's home, right? So this is news because everything he does is going to be under a microscope, and Cleveland fans will not be comfortable until that extension is signed.
Fair. I just don't think it's news because he was at WNBA games last year. Like, but he wasn't a free agent last year. Like, it wasn't all this going on last year. So, like the people that, stalk him on Instagram nowadays and take pictures of him and everything like that. Like, if they go back on, a year ago, they would find out he was at Liberty games last year. But people are lazy, and that's not a good talking point.
Kev Nash will be back on with us coming up here. He's on.
I'm
talking.
here.
You're hearing him, okay? But we'll get his camera situation figured out coming up here in just a moment. Last one here, Kev. Myles Garrett, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Joel Bitonio are among the big-name Browns players exercising their right to skip voluntary OTAs yesterday.
They don't want to win. They're not winners. They don't want to do what it takes to win football games.
So it's news. You agree with me? Yeah.
It's not news. This is not news, man. This is voluntary. Look, man, let's be clear. If I could take a day off of work and it not kind of against my PTO, I would. Like, let's be clear. This is not news, man. The most important thing, they will be there when it counts. They will be there in regular training camp, and they'll be there in the fall when the games start to matter. This is not news.
So the one thing you and I disagree on more than anything is when we compare when we try to use work analogies with athletes and like all the, I mean, I'm not like you do a lot. There's non-team activities happening. They're doing a lot of individual work themselves. They work very hard by themselves, and kudos to them. Obviously they don't become professional athletes if they don't, but I would like to think that the teams that I follow have athletes that value every second that you can have with your teammates. Now, that's easy for 5'5" Fat Kenner over here to say, but at the same time, I don't like the comparisons that we use for our day-to-day jobs with professional athletes who, and I'm not saying they only work 17 days a year, or Cleveland does apparently because of the playoffs, just whatever. But, it's wild to me with that. So with that being said, it's like, to me, there's no more valuable time on the field than with your teammates as far as any kind of team chemistry is concerned. My concern is if Cleveland was a franchise that has proven that they can handle winning, getting to the playoffs and building on it, fine. But every time they have any success, they take steps back because it's like they take their foot off the gas. They work hard to prove that the Browns is not the Browns. And then when they think they prove it by having a good year, 12-win year, making the playoffs, then they think that they don't have to continue to. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but until I see Cleveland prove that they can go to the playoffs 2 years in a row, maintain and sustain, dominant football, until I see that, I'm always going to be a little concerned. So yes, it's news to Browns fans. It's not news to anyone else, but I would like to think that these star players would take advantage of all time that they can have together out on the field. But again, it's May. It's not even technically June, so I'll hold the brakes, as Shaw would say.
Run down the players that are missing.
So no, and it's because of the names too. Myles Garrett,
defense.
Amari Cooper,
wide receiver.
Elijah Moore,
wide receiver.
Joel Bitonio,
offensive line,
among the big names on the offensive side of the ball too. And like with Deshaun's limited, he's been limited his availability out on the field with these guys. So to me, that's why Myles Garrett, I guess, do your thing. You're Myles Garrett. Just stop playing off-season hoops. How about that?
You want to control their lives to that magnitude?
Yes. When I say jump, you say how high.
No hoops.
Yeah.
Come to work when it's voluntary, not mandatory. Oh, man.
No have fun. Nah, no fun. No banana boats. No none of that.
Oh, gosh.
In that weight room.
Like I said, and I always will say, it is all conditional. We are fans. It's all conditional. Love is conditional when it comes to this situation.
Just win. Just win. Like I said, if they've earned that trust with the fan base that they could do stuff like that, fine. But like, we made the playoffs last year. We good. We good. Okay. We'll see. Now, Kenner and Cav, 1410 ESPN Radio. The Friday night primetime schedule for college football was released, and Ohio State avoided, any of these games. But which big marquee names did make the slate for Friday night football games? Of course, people love Friday night college football games, right? No, they do not. We'll get into that. 99 days until week 1 of the college football season. What are some of the bigger week 1 college football matchups that are coming up? We'll take a look at that. Also, Zay Flowers with the Ravens says that he has not gotten over the AFC Championship game fumble. He said that's still with him mentally as he prepares, trying to put that behind him as he prepares this offseason for next season. And that got me to thinking, what is that play or result that we as fans still just haven't recovered from?
I got several.
There's a lot of good ones out there, right? But like we can all relate. We may not like the Ravens. We don't have to like Zay Flowers, but we can all relate to that play or that result that we want to move forward. We want to look ahead, but we just can't seem to put it in the past. So what is that Zay Flowers situation for you, sports fans? We have that coming up around the corner as well. Let's see what else is on deck for today. Yes, NFL Network put out a list of the most complete teams, and they have the Bengals over the Browns. And I'll tell you why I have a problem with that, which maybe I don't, because these bums don't even show up to voluntary OTs. I'm joking. But I'll tell you why I have a hard time believing that the Bengals are a more complete team than the Cleveland Browns. And I'll tell you why when we come back. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, and Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll be right back.
You've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev, weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Buckeye fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
All right, and we are back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. We opened up the show, little news, not news. Look at that. Kev Nash's camera is back up and working.
Hello, world.
Is that the laptop camera or is that the actual camera?
It is the laptop camera.
I can't believe, I mean,
crystal clear.
I still can't get over Duran thinking you were in your 20s. And we got to go back and cut the clip for when you actually told him what your age was. Like his facial
the look on his face,
like,
he was shocked.
He went from his face said you were old, but his words were like, "I know you're not old. You're not old."
No, that's not old. I was just, it's not young though.
But he said you look 20. That's all that matters. But,
hey, I'll take it.
So I'm going to share this for those watching on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN Dayton YouTube, the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. I thought this was kind of wild. And again, I'm a homer, right? I'm a homer. Everything I do is, it is what it is. So I'm sharing this right now because I just found this very, very interesting. So now you see that on your screen for those watching? Okay. So the NFL Network put out a list of their top 10 most complete rosters. And they have the San Francisco 49ers at the top spot. Do you agree with that? Do you think as far as the most complete roster, checking off pretty much the majority of the boxes? I mean, what's your definition of a complete roster, I guess?
You have not only star players, but impact players at every spot. They got an impact running back. They got 2 impact wide receivers. They got impact D linemen with Bosa. They got probably the best middle linebacker in football, Fred Warner. They got quality cornerbacks. So yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to have the 49ers as the complete roster. Not just because you have a complete roster doesn't mean you're the best team of football, because their roster is basically identical to what it was last year, but they still lost to the Chiefs.
So what about so they have Baltimore at 2. They have the Baltimore Ravens at 2 right there. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. Because this is fair. This is fair. I mean, I know they took some hits on defense to free agency, but I think that's fair. I think that's fair to have them up there. Yes.
The Chiefs at number 3.
That Snead, them losing Snead is major. I think Snead is one of the best cornerbacks in football, but they were able to re-sign Chris Jones. They still got the best quarterback in football. They've upgraded at wide receiver. So yeah, I think I would rock with that. So
the QB plays a huge role in this
absolutely.
Too. But that's where the Niners are interesting, because Brock Purdy, their quarterback, who's not bad, he's just not good, right? He's not that he's not good. He's just not elite. I mean, you look at the teams at the top. You have Lamar Jackson with the Ravens at number 2. You have Patrick Mahomes on the Chiefs at number 3. You'll get the Lions at number 4. I think that's a safe spot for them. The Eagles, the same thing. Now, they have the Cincinnati Bengals at 6. I'm not hating Bengals fans. I'm not. But I have a hard time buying that the Cincinnati Bengals have the 6th most complete roster in football, when you had the 2nd worst defense in the NFL last year. You had the 2nd worst run game in the NFL last year. And you didn't, I mean, you plugged some of those holes in free agency, but you didn't, like, I don't think any move that they made has taken them from the 2nd worst defense in the NFL to making them a top 5 defense. Not saying that you have to, but you would like to think that the most complete rosters mean that you have the rosters with the least amount of deficiencies. And I know the Bengals, they're top heavy. They're a sexy roster because you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but they don't have an elite tight end. Their offensive line is good, not great. I mean, it's still a little soft considering the amount of money that they've spent in there. Defensive line, they don't have great pass rushers outside of Trey Hendrickson, and Trey Hendrickson's great, but again, they still have the 2nd worst defense in the NFL with Trey Hendrickson last year. They lose DJ Reader. They add a guy that replaces them, but they haven't really added any monster piece up there when you look at the D lines of the Steelers and the Ravens and the Browns. So I have a problem with the Bengals being at number 6, Kev.
Trying to look at this list again.
So you have the Texans.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, cool.
So that seems a little high for them, because they're talking about complete rosters, not just talking about offense, not just talking about defense. I mean, they think like the deficiency, in my view, I'm higher on Sam Hubbard than you are. I think they have 2 good bookend guys on the DN side out there for the Cincinnati Bengals. But you look at the secondary. Obviously, getting Stone from the Baltimore Ravens, which dings the Baltimore Ravens and helps them out. But there's question marks at cornerback. And that's another reason why I'm looking at the Detroit Lions as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, it's those three teams right there. The Lions, Eagles, and Bengals, to me, all have the same issue, which is cornerback. The Eagles obviously tried to fix that by drafting guys in the draft at corner. Same thing the Lions did. What the Bengals did are hoping that their second and now third year guys take a jump, and then they added, they brought back, Von Bell to add Stone to the secondary. So they're hoping that those pieces work out better for them. But the Eagles, Lions, and Bengals, those all have question marks, and they're all at the same position for me at the cornerback spot.
So quarterback's very important. And I think that's why they're like, okay, the Bengals have deficiencies, but they have such a great and elite quarterback that can overcome some of those. So I get that. So Cleveland coming in at number 9 is where I have a problem with this.
Okay.
Now, if Cincinnati wasn't at 6, I wouldn't have a problem with the Browns being at number 9. I do think the Browns have a top 10 roster in football, no doubt about it. And we saw why last year. People made, it was such a big deal. 5 different quarterbacks, they still made the playoffs and all this stuff. And it's, because they're a good team. People want to continue to rip the Cleveland Browns, but the bottom line is that would have just dismantled a Cleveland Browns team years ago. But they have so much depth and they have so much star power on this roster. They're able to overcome stuff. That's why they, everyone expected the Browns to keep faltering and stepping back last year, and they didn't. They kept moving forward because the roster's pretty loaded. This isn't a hot take, but there's no way in hell the Bengals have a more loaded roster than the Cleveland Browns. They have an elite quarterback and a quarterback that, I was about to say they can rely on more than Deshaun at this point, because Deshaun hasn't proven that he could play a lot of games in the season, and I'm admitting that. But the Browns have a better overall roster. When you look at the top 10 most, overall rosters in football, and that's what this list is right here, I can't say that the Bengals have a better overall roster than the Cleveland Browns. So before you guys get mad at me, hear me out. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, overall defense, special teams. Go down the list. I'm not hating here. I don't know how you could disagree with some of these, right? Quarterback, advantage Bengals. No doubt about it.
Let me get my paper. So I can write it down.
There's all of our stuff in here, too. We barely have.
Who's been cleaning the studio lately? Normally, it's crap all around here I can write on.
Yeah, well,
Okay, we're at you.
We had corporate come to town. So, they're still looking for us, by the way. So going down this list, okay, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, O-line, D-line, linebacker, secondary, overall defense, special teams, okay?
All right, let's do it.
Quarterback advantage Bengals, no debate there.
Agreed.
The Browns have a very good quarterback in Deshaun Watson, okay? Now, it's hard for me to confidently go into the gap between Deshaun and Joe Burrow is still pretty wide until Deshaun can show that he can go out there and perform the way he did against the Titans. Okay, he had a great performance against the Titans and then was out for a month. Comes back, gets rolling again, has the best performance as a Brown against a top 3 defense at the time in the Baltimore Ravens, dismantled them in the second half, and then he's out for the season after that. I would like to see Deshaun have a performance like that and then, have repeated again the next week, and then all of a sudden we're talking about a much different looking Browns team at that point. But advantage Bengals, quarterback. The Cleveland Browns lose the best running back or a top 5 running back in the NFL last year in Nick Chubb. Okay. They go on to still finish with a top 10 run game in football last year. So advantage Browns and they're getting Nick Chubb back.
Agreed.
So the Browns over the Bengals in the run game is concerned. The wide receiver room is interesting. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not delusional, but I do think that when you have to rely on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to stay healthy the entire season, there's nothing behind them. You lost Tyler Boyd. Now, I do like who they got in the draft. So that's why it has to be Cincinnati. I like Jerry Jeudy. I like, what the Browns have as far as depth at wide receiver. I like Amari Cooper, but it's Cincinnati. I'm not going to
agree.
So the Bengals have the better quarterback. They have the better wide receiver room. The Browns have the better running game. They have the better tight end. They have an elite tight end in David Njoku. Njoku last year really kind of emerged. He had monster games with Deshaun Watson. He took off with Joe Flacco. Could he regress? Because if it doesn't click with Deshaun, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But he had some monster games last year. Statistically, touchdown-wise, yard-wise, top 5 tight end in football. Advantage Cleveland Browns there. I don't think it's debatable. Browns offensive line.
Yep.
I don't think it's debatable. Browns defensive line as far as that goes. The linebacker situation, I like Cleveland's linebackers. I don't think you could be a top 3 defense in the NFL if you have bad linebacker play, but I do like Logan Wilson. I do like what the Bengals have there. I don't know if you could say they wash each other out, but I'm going to go with the linebacker crew. I'll be a homer, I guess. I like the Browns linebackers. I do think they can improve there, but I do like the Browns linebackers. I'm going to go with the Browns at linebacker.
I will go with the Bengals.
Okay, that's like I said, like I think that they're kind of close, to be honest. But I do like Logan Wilson better than anyone that the Browns have, as far as that's concerned. The secondary, it's the Browns. When you look at the complete secondary, I mean the depth that they have at corner now, if they could just stay healthy. But you have the when you look at Denzel Ward and you look at everything that they have there, I like the Cleveland Browns secondary. Overall defense, it's Cleveland. Overall defense, that's Cleveland. Special teams, that was Cleveland. Now, because they signed a kicker I thought it was going to be a nightmare situation. He ended up being one of the best kickers in football last year. So it's wild how that all turned out.
But then they bring York back?
He's their backup now.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Backup.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go with the Bengals on special teams.
The reason, we're making about the field goal kicker, but the Bengals have a horrible punter. They have a horrible punter. The Browns have a very good punter. They have a very good field goal kicker. They go out and they put an emphasis on getting a good special teams coach. I'm going Browns special teams as far as that goes. But yes, everyone, when they think of the Bengals, they think of Money Mac, who I like too. But they were horrible at punting last year. They were putting teams in very good field position because they just could not get it right at the punting position. So when you look all up and down that, even even with the ones that you picked that I did not, I still got the Bengals, Browns being a better roster than the Cincinnati Bengals. So, and that's Kev, who's neutral in this, who's never been accused of a hot take. So that's why I'm glad that he even though disagreed, but some agreed overall. And again, this doesn't mean anything. I'm not tearing down the Bengals. I'm just trying to get people to show the Browns a little bit of respect, because it's easy to tear down the Browns and say the Browns is the Browns. But when you strip it down and look at the roster, well, Bengals fans want to throw shade at the roster and the Browns, and that's fine. Cleveland deserves all the shade. But when you look at the running back room, the tight end, the offensive line, defensive line, secondary, defense, special team, Cleveland has a better overall roster than the Cincinnati Bengals. But they don't have a deep playoff run. They don't have a Super Bowl appearance. They don't have back-to-back AFC championship appearances or AFC North titles. So all that Cincinnati love is deserved because it's been proven out on the field. That's where Cleveland's at now. They're going to go prove it on the field. But, yeah, I thought that was interesting. You look at the Texans and the Packers being a better overall roster than the Browns. I disagreed with that. But the Jets being at number 10, people want to bury the Jets, but the Jets have a top 10 roster in your opinion?
No.
So that one was interesting. This is an NFL Network list. We're on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page, ESPN Dayton on YouTube, and Chatterbox Sports. You could see the list right there. And that's what Kevin and I are debating nonetheless.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. I was going to ask you, which team on here do you think shouldn't be top 10?
Looking at this right now, let me put some more music behind because we're about to step away for a few moments. I think that the Jets, you look at the quarterback, the running back, the offensive line's so bad. The defense is really good. I think the Jets are okay there. I just think it's we can't get out of our mind how bad they were offensively last year.
Right.
And we are trying to convince ourselves that a 40-year-old quarterback is the difference. And maybe he is.
He could be.
He very well could be.
He was for the Buccaneers.
Let me ask you this then. I actually think all of these are the Packers are the one that's interesting. I don't like their wide receiving core. I'm not in love with Love. Their defense is always good. I love their offensive line. I'm
sold with Love. I'm sold.
I
want to buy all the Caleb Love stock I can.
Okay. So are they? But do you think the Packers are top 10?
I love their defense.
They're just solid. They're just solid.
I love their O-line. I love the quarterback. I like the wide receivers. I like Romeo Doubs the best out of them. If Christian Watson can catch the ball, he'll be great. But that's kind of a requirement for a wide receiver is to catch the ball. But I like their roster. I really like their roster. Maybe it is just just the Jets. Maybe it is some subliminal hate there. The first inkling when I look at that, I was like, the Jets top 10 roster? The Jets? Are we sure?
It's that defense that can sauce, and the pass rushers.
They got 3 pass rushers for the Jets. You know what I'm saying? It's not just the book end, the ends. They got rush ends at linebacker. They got a great secondary. Yeah,
you have your quarterback, you have your wide receivers, you have your running game. The only thing they don't have is an offensive line. And you think you have a quarterback. You think it's Aaron Rodgers, but You've never had a quarterback at 40 years old missing it. So they said he would be the oldest quarterback to go through an entire year's worth amount of time between playing a football game. So interesting nonetheless. But all right, Kinner and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio. Appreciate you guys letting us do that. Again, we're trying some new stuff on the show and having fun with that nonetheless. But we'll step away for a few moments. The Buckeyes are not going to play any Friday night games coming up in 2024. Well, yeah, it's the Buckeyes. Of course they're not going to play. Well, you should see the big-named, big-branded teams playing on Friday nights. So if those teams could do it, why can't Ohio State? But let's talk a little Friday night lights, not high school, but college football. We'll take a look at that schedule that was just released. We'll be right back. And we are back. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Hope you got anything lined up for the extended 3-day weekend?
Yes, actually, tomorrow I'll be broadcasting live from Gunt Park out there in Yellow Springs. Donnell Rollins, comedian Donnell Rollins, a.k.a. Ashy Larry.
You hanging out with him earlier.
Yeah, a.k.a. Ashy Larry from The Chappelle Show. He has his 4th annual Donnell Land weekend, so come on out there for the celebrity kickball game, 9 a.m. I'll be out there at Gunk Park in Yellow Springs. And then right after that, I'll be at Buck Creek Marina with our friends over there at Ride One Power Sports. They got the pontoon boats out there. So we'll be riding out there on the lake, having a good time. And then on Sunday, I'm going bowling. And then Monday is Big Chill. We call it Big Chill Monday.
Every time I hear the Ride One Power Sports, got to ride one.
You want to ride one. Shouts out to Cody and everybody out there at Ride One Power Sports.
So that's pretty neat. But yeah, I was in my office today getting some stuff done. And I heard Donnell Rollins walk by, and he was complimenting how busy our office was. It's a ghost town in this, but you covered very well. You made him feel like, yeah, we know this place is usually like it's bumping. Like there's a lot of people, shoulder to shoulder, like
Guys getting ready for the 3-day weekend. They turn it into a 4-day weekend. Shouts out to those people that take Fridays off on a 3-day weekend extended. My wife is one of those people.
You know, we look like a real sports station this week. We had some like big names just roaming the hallways. You got KB's in here weekly. Yeah. Donnell Rollins walking the hallway. Deron Holmes. That's wild. He spent the entire day in our studio, with the Wednesday or whatever, doing KB's show, hung out a little bit, ate some Lee's. Then he did our show to start. But shout out to him. He's back in Arizona.
Absolutely.
Did confirm the week of once he's drafted, we will get him back on the show again. So excited about that nonetheless.
Real cool dude, man. Very cool.
New mock draft has him going in late first round to the Pelicans.
Wow. That'll be a good fit.
Pelicans.
It'll be a good fit.
Especially they move on from Ingram.
Yeah. That's the rumor. I mean, right now we're dialing in on the NBA season so close to the conference. Well, we are at the conference finals, so close to the NBA finals. Like the rumor mill is starting to circulate. Obviously with a team like the Cavs moving off from their coach, JB Bickerstaff, the whole thing is about, all right, how can we keep Donovan Mitchell happy? And can we get another wing scorer? And I'm obviously huge on Paul George, but hey, if you can get Brandon Ingram to come to Cleveland, I will gladly take that as well.
With keeping Donovan Mitchell.
Absolutely.
Because Ingram could put up points, but that was his problem when he got put in position where he had to be the primary scorer.
Right.
It looked good. That's the typical box score watching, but like the point, no impact points. It wasn't points late in games. It wasn't taking over games. I like Ingram a lot. But I think you got to like him as a complimentary scorer.
Yes.
A Chris Bosh type of guy, as far as that's concerned. Now Bosh can play defense. Yeah. That's difference, but nonetheless.
My thing about the Cavs is who are they going to get for the head coaching spot? Like, I don't think the Cavs are in a position to go out there and do the whole experiment thing, when they went over and got David Blatt from overseas and everything like that. I don't think the Cavs are in a position where, I've heard, go out there and get Dawn Staley, go out there and get Hurley from UConn. I don't want a college coach. I don't want a coach from overseas.
They tried that with Beeline.
Yeah. I don't want a college coach. And it's no disrespect to Dawn Staley because she's a woman. I feel the same way about Hurley. I don't want a college coach. I need a coach that has NBA experience, be it at an assistant coach level or a head coaching level. For me, I don't even know his name, but whoever the assistant coach is for the T-Wolves, whatever his name is, that's who I want. So if people aren't familiar with the situation with the T-Wolves, their head coach had to have knee surgery or broke his leg on the sidelines. So he's coaching, but he's coaching behind the bench. So he's basically the second coach now. And their lead assistant has been coaching them throughout the playoffs. I want him to be the head coach of the Cavs. He's guided them to the conference finals of the Western Conference Finals. They beat the defending champs. That's who I will be circling my name around if I was, in that seat with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, because you can't keep going back to the well to the same old recycled names. And here, for a lot of reasons why, but the main reason why is looking at coaches that are having success in today's NBA. Today's NBA is younger. It's faster. You could say there's no defense. It's just a different kind of defense. So you can't keep going back to the names. Like, I'm tired of hearing, why am I drawing a blank? The old Suns coach, that was the Lakers coach, or the Knicks coach. It was the fast paced, with Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire and all those guys. D'Antonio. His name's not brought up for the Cavs. That was a regurgitated name for many, many years. Right. And so it's like, you need a coach that knows how to coach today's game.
Right.
They can coach today's game and is showing that they can have success with stars in today's playoff atmosphere. And that's going to be key as far as that's concerned too. So, and obviously this all, it all resides in the fact, do you get Donovan Mitchell to come back?
Right.
I said it earlier. Donovan Mitchell extends in Cleveland. That is the biggest win in Cleveland since drafting LeBron. Like, not LeBron coming back the second time, winning the title. Yes, I guess. Yeah, but that's kind of tied in with LeBron. But we know it's Cleveland. Free agents LeBron couldn't get free agents to come to Cleveland. That's what everyone said. No one wanted to go play with him in Cleveland. That's why he went and joined D Wade and Bosh over in Miami, right? So, and although this may not be a free agent situation, it kind of is. He has a chance to be free. He has a chance to go pick where he wants to go. And if he chooses to stay in Cleveland without any evidence of being able to go on deep playoff runs, that's a huge win for Cleveland. And that's cool of Donovan Mitchell if that's the case. Are you shocked that the rumblings are starting to pick up that, oh yeah, Cleveland expects him to sign the extension? Because that wasn't the case 2 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, the tombstone
was up.
Yeah, this thing is pendulum is swinging left and right. Like, it was swinging left and right when the Magic series was going on. Remember, they got up 2-0 and like, oh man, everything's great. They're going to win in a gentleman's sweep. Then it went all the way to Game 7. And as Game 6 was wrapping up after he dropped 50 points and we still lost, he's out of there no matter what. He's heading home to New York. He's going to leave on the first thing smoke. He's going to be playing for the Miami Heat just like LeBron did. He's going to come there and leave and just blah, blah, blah. Then they win Game 7. Like, okay. And then they lose game 1 to the Celtics. Like, he's out of there. Then they win game 2. Like, oh, man, all right, Cavs. And then they lose game 3. And then it starts tilting this way. And then, like, oh, well, we're hearing JB's going to get fired. Then JB actually does get fired. So now we're hearing, like, oh, man, he's going to stick around. I think that $70 million has a lot to do with it. He's going to get $70 million more if he signs with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And let's be clear, Donovan Mitchell is one heck of a basketball player. He's not going to make the same dollars in endorsements that a LeBron did to make up for that income that he was not getting from basketball. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, oh, man, he'll make it up off the court. Well, that's LeBron James. LeBron James has a huge Nike contract. Donovan Mitchell has a good Adidas contract, but it's not Nike. LeBron James was starring in movies. Donovan Mitchell is watching movies. You know what I'm saying? So that $70 million to a Donovan Mitchell is huge. I mean, it's huge to everybody. But like LeBron, we could all understand him. All right, I'm leaving like $15 million out there. I'll make it up on the back end. Donovan Mitchell isn't doing the same things off the court that LeBron James is doing to justify that for himself. So that $70 million is the reason why he'll be staying with the Cavs.
And that change in the last collective bargaining agreement was done for stuff like this to help the Clevelands of the world.
Yes.
Because if it's a good point too, because it's not like he can go to New York and make the same money that he could in Cleveland. All right. You know,
and the taxes in New York ain't the taxes in
so
Ohio.
You're rewarded to re-sign with your team versus to leave it. He would basically be taking less money to go be a Knick or anywhere else, basically. So nonetheless, but that's something to keep an eye on. The Bickerstaff firing, of course, was not interesting. I mean, everyone's like, oh, it's interesting. It's not interesting. It was kind of figured it was going to happen as far as that's concerned. Cav college football, Ohio State, they avoid the Friday night games. Okay. And I thought this, so we'll put some old music in the background. We used to have like a college football thing. Where did that go? Let me go back and find this.
Better get ready because we're 99 days away.
Yeah, there it is.
Wow, 99 days away
from week 1.
Serious.
Yeah. So 99 days away from week 1 of the college football season. It's a good week of games, but like Penn State, West Virginia is one of the biggest games that week. Is it a big game? I mean, to me, I can't wait, but I know it's not like a sexy game.
Old school rivals.
Florida and Miami. That's always a fun one.
Yeah.
Those two teams, everyone always thinks they're going to win a national title in September, right? Let's see. Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. That's kind of a cool one. That's unique.
Very unique. I don't remember the last time Notre Dame has played an SEC team. Yeah. Was it
in a regular
Georgia?
Season? Yeah, I guess they played just a few years ago.
They played Georgia a couple years ago.
And then the big one, Georgia and Clemson.
Get your popcorn ready. Popcorn ready. Definitely here for that. No transfers for good old Clemson.
But Dabo might be transferring out of Clemson involuntarily. Friday night football, not high school, but college. The Buckeyes are not going to play any Friday night games in 2024. But some of these are some interesting Friday night games. How about, I wish Michigan State was in a better spot, but Oregon and Michigan State on October 4th, Friday night football.
Oregon State?
Oregon.
Or Oregon. Oh, Oregon's going to blow their doors off.
That's what I mean. I wish Michigan State was a better football team.
Oregon State's old head coach is now their head coach.
Yes.
Yeah. They're going to get smacked around.
This one might be okay. These aren't two great teams, but they might be similar. UCLA and Iowa, November 8th, Friday night football.
I'm here for that.
I like that. For one, that's a very weird matchup, but that's kind of the unique. Like everyone talks about UCLA coming to play Ohio State, USC, but it's weird seeing, you're going to see USC have to go play at Rutgers at some point. At Iowa, like UCLA at Iowa.
Yeah, and
USC at Iowa. That's kind of neat.
And the thing about it is, like, obviously we get like super hype about like the big marquee matchup, but obviously there's more lower tier matchups and mid tier matchups and more like-minded teams. So a like-minded or like situational team like a USC or UCLA going to Iowa, like that's a matchup all onto itself. That's like something like, oh man, that's a bowl game. That would be something we've only seen a bowl game back in the day, but now we're going to be able to see that during the regular season.
How about this Big Ten football on Friday night? How about this Big Ten showdown on Friday night? It's one of the biggest Big Ten showdowns. November 15th, Washington against UCLA. That is weird.
Welcome to the Big Ten, baby.
Big Ten Friday night football, man.
I'm here for it, man.
That's kind of a cool matchup.
I'm here for it. I'm here for all these matchups, man. I'm a college football junkie. I know I'm still a little scarred about how things ended last season, not only with the Buckeyes, but with Florida State. But I'm slowly but surely coming back around to watching my beloved college football.
Let's see. Kansas State versus Arizona, September 13th. But here it is. So USC at Rutgers. USC at Rutgers on October 25th.
Nice.
Friday night football, baby.
Wheels up, baby. Wheels up.
Poor Lincoln Riley. Living in LA, got to go to
no,
Rutgers.
I'm seeing Rutgers at.
Oh, so it's at USC.
Yeah. So them Jersey boys get to go out to LA for the weekend.
So
nice.
then Iowa's at UCLA. Then if the team that's first is usually the team that's first is at that opponent. So
yes.
So Iowa's at UCLA on the 20th. Okay, interesting nonetheless. Washington, UCLA, UCF, and Utah on November 29th, Friday Night Football.
I'm here for that.
I like that one.
I'm here for that. The Utah boys going down to good old Orlando. Speaking of Orlando, jump on the wingam.com, register for your chance to win a trip to Orlando, to the most magical place on earth.
I heard that promo. I really did.
Did you?
Promos are running.
Wow, nice. So we're going to pay for you and the fam to fly down there. We're going to pay for your hotel stay, and we're also going to pay, of course, for your tickets to the park. Jump online right now, wingam.com. to win a trip to the most magical place on earth. It's in Orlando, Florida, a place I almost live.
Almost nonetheless. All right, good stuff. Hour number one, opening hour of the show in the books. Coming up in the next part of the show, we're going to hear, of course, from our conversation with Deron Holmes,
Sweet.
who opened up the show with us this past Wednesday. We talked about pretty much everything. I did ask him, so the most interesting part about that, we're going to spend more time on this next week because it was interesting hearing it from a big name like that. Deron Holmes wanted to play Wright State. For everyone out there that actually, the players don't, it's been decades since the players don't care about that stuff. They don't get caught up in that. And for a little bit, I started to believe that. I'm like, I think we wanted as fans because we used to watch it, right? Like, do these players today even care? They do. Deron said it on the show. He's like, no, I wanted to play them. I don't know why we don't play. He probably knows why. He's not going to say our team's a bunch of snobs. That's why. So he's going to say he doesn't know. But, it was interesting hearing him say that. He brought up the Grant Basile game. He brought up the picture, the picture he was talking about. So Grant Basile and Tanner Holden and Trey Calvin, when they all played at Wright State, in fact, it was the year they went to the NCAA tournament. They won the first 4 game at UD Arena. They went to the Wright State UD volleyball game that year, and it was at UD. And they had the sign that said, bring on UD, that we want UD. And it was the men's team holding up the sign, calling out Dayton. And so that never happened. Obviously, Grant Basile transfers to Virginia Tech. And then they play Dayton, and Basile has like 29 points, just absolutely annihilated them, just absolutely dominated them. So that's what Deron was talking about when he said the coach came in with the picture saying, he's been wanting you. He's been wanting this. He's been dreaming about this. And he ate him alive that game. So, nonetheless, but we talked about that. Talked about his player comps, rapid fire, as far as that goes too. So that was good stuff there. But all right, our conversation with Deron Holmes coming up next. Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.